Welcome back to Project 613. Today's mitzvah concerns an individual who was quarreling with his friend, and their argument ended up becoming physical, and one person ended up hitting the other person, and an injury was caused. So what happens then? Well, the Torah tells us that there are different types of restitution that needs to be paid when damage is caused, when direct damage is caused in this way between one person and another, and that is today's mitzvah, to make sure to pay up those damages. Now, in fact, there are 5 different types of damages that a person needs to pay if he causes injury to his friend, and we will go through them now. The first is called nezek. Nezek literally means for the damage, you pay back for the damage that was done. How is that calculated? Well, say for example, if a person hit another person and broke their arm, how would you calculate how much damage needs to be paid for that? So back in the day when it was common that people were sold as a slave, there would be a very simple way of calculating the amount of damage, because we would evaluate this individual and see how much he would go on the market as a slave, how much he would be able to be sold as a slave before his arm was broken, and how much he would be able to be sold as a slave now that his arm was broken, and the difference, that's how much would be paid for damages. That's the first category. The second is called tsar. Tsar literally means pain. Here again, how does one calculate the value of pain? So the Talmud tells us that with each individual, this would be different as well, and it's calculated on an individual basis. And the way it works is that we would ask a person how much money he would be willing to accept to endure this injury. So if a person says, I would be willing to have my arm broken if I would get a payment of £1,000, that is the amount. And so too, depending on the amount that a person would accept for having such an injury, that's how much needs to be paid. That's called tsar. The third category is called ripui. Ripui comes from the Hebrew word refuah, which means healing. And that are the medical bills, the medical expenses that have to be paid in order for this person to cure himself, to heal himself. So all medical bills have to be paid. That is the third type. The fourth category is called sheves. Sheves is the money for unemployment, the amount of time that the person wasn't able to go to work and now he lost money. So all of those expenses need to be paid as well. The Talmud discusses at length how exactly that is calculated. Do we go by the person's job, or is there another way of calculating it? That's a discussion in the Talmud about that. But at any rate, sheves means the amount of unemployment. And finally, boishes. Boishes means embarrassment, the shame that was caused to an individual. So when someone was hurt, if it was done publicly, or even if it was done privately, but now he has an injury that he would be embarrassed to show his face. So here again, this has to be paid. This is the fifth type of restitution. And here again, this is calculated on an individual basis. In the words of the Talmud, hakol lefi hamivayesh v'hamizbayesh, which means this would be calculated based on the social standing of the individual, both the individual who caused the damage and the individual who the damage was caused to. And based on their social standing, that the Beis Din would calculate how much, the amount of embarrassment that needs to be paid back for that individual. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.